Yo, what's going on my geometry and dashes? In this video I'm going to be making my first 2.2 level. I've made some 2.2 type levels before, but the levels I've worked on so far in 2.2 have been runoffs from my 2.1 levels, so they just didn't end up being what I wanted them to be because I was still learning new triggers and whatnot. So I'm starting this new project to hopefully use the new 2.2 features to their fullest potential. I'll throw off a quick example of my previous 2.1 level on screen so you guys can all see what I mean. In my new level I'm going to be using the song Lucid Dreams, which is a much slower paced song. It does have a drop which I do like at some point. It's going to be a bit different because typically I make fast gameplay, so this new level that I'm creating is going to be a bit of a challenge for me because I'm using the song right from the start, which starts off, as I said, very slow. Also in this new level I was gonna push my boundaries a little bit. We're creating some better backgrounds and effects for the background. In my previous levels I usually avoided making backgrounds. I'll probably show an example of the best background I made, but I wouldn't even call it that at this point. If you want to know what's going to be happening with this channel going forward, stick around to the end and I'll explain what my plan is for this channel. Otherwise we'll just get into the building. This is going to be mostly post commentary because I couldn't live commentate. So at the start here you can see that I have just set up some basic alpha triggers at the start. I still use 0 opacity on 1. I know that you can hide blocks now, but yeah, I guess I just have old 2.1 syndrome then. I don't know, I just always forget that you can do that, so I still set it up anyway. I also added the camera guide to the player, which is going to be used for the first section, because the first section is in static, so the camera doesn't move with the player, it just follows their X, so it'll just go across with them. And then I just have a few blocks there that are reserving the first couple groups in case I need to add more stuff at the start. Other than that, I think I've set up a gradient trigger near the start as well, and then that wave portal down there is simply just to show where the ground is going to be, because I'm using a moving block instead of the ground. At the start of the level I also have a BPM trigger set up, which if you haven't used before, it's very useful. This is my first time using it. You just need to find the BPM of your song, and then you sync it up with the speed of the gameplay, and then that'll show you a whole bunch of lines where each beat is. It's so useful for making gameplay. I'll quickly show you how to get up into the settings for the BPM. Oh, look at that, I managed to find it. I literally forgot where it was for a second. If you want to find out your BPM, you can go up to the song settings up where you can see I'm in right now, and you just click to the beat of the song and it should find the BPM for you. I found that mine was actually doubled compared to what I was doing, but that's also because I don't know music and I don't think I was clicking on the beat at all. I'll quickly do an example on the song that I'm using here so you guys can see how it works. So you just keep tapping to the beat here until eventually it'll sort of thin down to one number, and then it might move around a little bit, and after you do a certain amount it should find the beat. So I think mine was 56 and then I doubled that, and that just gave me the BPM of the song. So if you're struggling with it, maybe try double it. Otherwise you can always just try look up your song's BPM online. Okay, so here in the editor, while I'm building this level, you can see the yellow lines where the beats hit. I've tried to sync the gameplay to each one of those beat lines. I think it'll work out pretty well. As I'm building, you'll see I play a lot. Usually when I'm building parts of a level, I'll build one jump, play test it, build one jump, play test it. It's a very slow way of creating, but it just sort of helps me visualize what's going on with the level. For me, it's just easier to design it like that. At this point in the level, I'm thinking of making it a demon level. I'm not sure what demon difficulty it will be yet. It probably won't be above hard, considering I haven't beat a demon above hard. So we'll just see where it ends up. I think the main determiner of how difficult it's going to end up being is how long it is. I'm not sure how long I want to make it. I think at first I wanted to make it the full song, but it's 5 minutes and 40 seconds, and I'll be real, I don't think I have that much ambition, so we'll just see where it gets to. But I will at least get to the first beat drop and then probably continue it a little bit after that till it finishes off, because I do have quite a few ideas of what I'm going to build later on. It's just I don't know if I'll be able to consistently keep that style up across a full 5-minute level, so we'll just see where we end up by the end of this series. Okay, so I just slowed down the footage here because I sort of want to explain a little bit what the plan is for this first part of the level. With this first part, I wanted to go for like sort of some like runes, so think like pillars and whatnot that are crumbling down and stuff like that. So typically with Geometry Dash, I haven't really built with any sort of reference or examples or stuff that I wanted to do. That's probably the reason why my previous level, Tokyo Takedown, ended up becoming a bit of a mess, because I had no reference for it, so there was no sort of conceptual theme across the whole level. In this level, I took major inspiration from another level called Between Worlds, created by Loco. So that was my first sort of inspiration to create this level. I don't know how many themes I'm going to use from that level. It more just inspired me to create something again, because I haven't played Geometry Dash in quite a while, as you could probably see. But looking at the level, I believe that it takes inspiration from games like Tunic and maybe Tears of the Kingdom as well. I don't know, that's just the way I see it personally. So I want to try take themes from that, mainly just for the start of the level, and maybe some parts later on. But I've also come up with some of my own ideas for later on in the level. With the song being called Lucid Dreams and the way it plays out, I think I have a lot of creative freedom in the way that I create this level. So I wanted to start off in that sort of rune area, then go into something a bit more abstract. And then from there, I wanted to see if I could create some more art style, go into like maybe a room that's sort of got objects and stuff floating around. And from there, I came up with a really crazy idea last night, which I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull off, but I really want to. I wanted to create a part of the level that looks like a comic book, where you go from different panels, so switching between them. And I want to take inspiration from stuff like the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse movies, because their visual style is just immaculate, and if I'm able to copy any part of that and put it in my level, that'll be cinema. That's all I'm saying. Okay, I think I've rambled for long enough on this first part, so we'll get into the actual gameplay, where I'll show you what we have so far on the first section. Alright, I'm gonna do a bit of live commentary over this gameplay, see if I can beat it at the same time. So, at the moment, you can see that I have this whole area set up. There's a few difficult jumps like that where you have to hold down. I don't know if they'll stay, they probably will. I like them, but for now, that's what it is. What you can see on the right, we'll get to that later, that's coming up. Okay, so the start of the level, now you've seen it, it uses, the mini cube and mini ball, because I wanted the taps for it to be very light, the jumps to be very small, so you sort of get the same feeling with the gameplay as you do from the music. Okay, we'll get into the gameplay for the second part now, and after that, we'll get to the effect that you saw in the background for probably half a second. It is crazy, but I want to do the gameplay first, I don't want to rush straight into it. Okay, so here you can see me bumbling around with the follow trigger trying to create these worms. Didn't work out at all. I think I ended up just using keyframes and delaying them, so these worm things, they jump up and they will follow in a line. The follow trigger just ended up doing some very goofy things. I mean, I'm gonna show it on screen, but like, it was so unpredictable. I was thinking of putting it in the level just like as an effect or something, but I didn't even know how to control it. So there was no way I was putting it in if like I didn't even know what was happening with it. I mean, even right after the clip that I use in this, you could literally see me pulling out the GD editor guide because I was just so clueless as to what was happening with these things. So that's, after I read that, couldn't figure it out, that's when I decided to just use keyframes. Maybe I'll try figure it out later on in the level, but right now, for this bit at least, I'm just gonna stick to what I know. Okay, so we're up to the part where I finally decided to use keyframe triggers, and you'll be glad to know that as I was making the keyframes, I also completely forgot how to make keyframes and had to go look at my old level Tokyo Takedown just to see how I did it. I did figure it out. It just took a little bit and I wasn't expecting it to take as long as I thought it would, but you know, we got there in the end. I mean, look, I don't even know how the curve thing works. If you don't know how keyframes work, you know, I'll just show an example of how they work because they are a bit complicated. It's just the kind of thing that I thought I knew and then I did it and I didn't know. So I'll quickly give you a guide on keyframes. Alright, so we're in the editor. Let's do a keyframe guide. So, first of all, we're just going to grab a block. This will be what we're keyframing. And then what you want to do is you place that down, put it in a new group. So you add it to group 1. Then you add this up here. So that's the group ID for the keyframes. And then you can move it. Here you can mess with how long it takes to get to the next one. You can mess with the easing. I'm not going to do any of that because I just want this to be quick. So then you can also rotate it. So we'll do that. So it rotates on its side and then it comes back down here and goes down there. So then you want to take this one, the actual keyframe trigger, and this is the animation group ID. So this is animation 1 over here because it's in group 1. And then this up here correlates to that, and then you want to target whatever object you want to move with the keyframes. So I want this object to move with the keyframes, so there we go, add it to group 2. And then also, if you're using rotations and stuff and you have multiple objects, you want to add a parent ID as well. So for a parent ID, you just want to sort of like find something small, put it in the center. You can make it invisible as well, and then, you know, add it to 3 and then add it to the thing, and it should then rotate around that instead of rotating individually around each block. So we'll see if I set it off right. Wonderful. So that's your guide on keyframe triggers if you didn't know how they worked before. Okay, now we're back to me not knowing how keyframe triggers work. We'll just skip over this because, like I said, I do mess around with this for ages. Eventually I get there. I think I'll just skip to the part where I actually figure it out. Dude, I actually just had to skip over like an hour of me going back and forwards between my old new level to the GD editor guide. I don't know how I make anything in this game, honestly. This clip is at 100 times speed, and that's only like half of it. Anyway, prime time for worm time. They work. That's very good considering for this second part I pretty much use them throughout the whole thing. They're actually really good gameplay element, and you'll see them come up a lot in the next bit of gameplay. Okay, right here you can see me setting up the upside down version of the keyframe. Having the keyframes above the level and sort of setting them aside just means that I can copy and paste them and then use the build helper option in the menu to be able to replicate them all throughout the level. If you don't know what build helper is, I feel like everyone who uses the editor pretty often does at this point, but build helper is a button in the menu. You'll see it come up. I'll have a little arrow for you right there. Look at that. Okay, just as a little example here, you can see I'm setting up a cube just to move upwards into the air on a move trigger. This cube is in group 1 and then that move trigger is targeting group 1. So what I'm going to do is select both of them and then copy and paste them, and then you just hit build helper, and just like that it'll instantly move it to the next free group. For me it's 2 because that level obviously has nothing in it, but it could be any number. It could range anywhere from 1 to, you know, a million if you're up to that many groups somehow in a level. Okay, so here I'm just setting up some simple things. What I'm doing here is the camera that's guided onto the player for the first part, the one that stops the screen from moving up and down only moves it left and right. I'm just making it so the camera unlinks from that one and just becomes the normal camera again, so it'll just follow the player. And then I went and played Marvel Rivals with my friend, and I got absolutely disposed of.
What about it? Probably not. Oh, you gotta be having a laugh. Bomb again.
Oh!
Everyone's dying, just know.
I didn't even get time to like boost or Oh. Anyway, back to it. So what happened here was actually an accident. I placed down a second set of keyframe triggers for the same worm, and what ended up happening was it ended up jumping like twice. Then its movement got really strange. It started going straight and then fell back down. And I was going to get rid of it at first, but then I made gameplay around it. So what happens here is I'll pull it up on screen so you can see it. You turn back into the cube here, and you sort of like play around the worm, have to avoid it. That one mistake really changed the way the gameplay is, because before that it was simply just going to be like a ship section with like a few orbs in it, but now because of that I started implementing the cube back into it as well and added these orbs into the worms, as you can see. Okay, so that's pretty much the gameplay of this part, and now we're finally getting into the first design aspect, which is this transition. Later on it changes a little bit. It could still potentially change in the final level as well. There's a few like minor tweaks I might make to it, but for now this is sort of what it looks like. Unfortunately I don't have a video of me like making the animation, so I'm just going to show it in the editor now in like the newer version of the level. So basically what it is it's just there's some circles that are behind the orb, and once you hit it they fade onto screen, and then they also scale up over the screen. I use two different circles because the small circle, once you stretch it to a certain point, it gets very blurry and it looks very low quality. So halfway through I swap it out for a big circle, and then after that all that happens is the outline for this eye fades onto screen, and then the actual eye fades onto screen, and then because the screen's already black, you don't really see it fade, it more just sort of appears there. And then there's a few move triggers somewhere. Let me find them. There we go, down here, that will open and then close the eye for the transition. And then what happens after that is the camera that is static onto the eye gets turned off, so you actually end up round about somewhere here where this little thingo is, and then this screen comes down, blocks your vision, and then moves to the left. And that's how that transition was made. Okay, now with all that out of the way, I'm finally going to get into how I made this weird looking rotating 3D background. So this is what the background looks like without any of the color effects on it or the gameplay in front of it. And now that you can clearly see it, I'll start explaining how it works. I'll get into the editor so I can sort of show some examples of what's going on. Alright, so I'm going to try explain how these rotating eye things work. So basically there's two different halves to it, and the reason why there is two different halves is just so I can control the timings of them a bit easier. But what we have down here is we have two loops, these ones here, and they scale the eye negatively. So the eye will shrink down like this, and you see once it crosses that barrier it flips to the other side. So once it crosses itself, that's when it flips around, and that's how you get the effect of it sort of rotating in 3D. Now, the part behind it is a bit more complicated, and I am probably not the best person to explain this. I will try my best, but I learnt most of this off a audio-visual video, so I'll probably link that one in the description. But basically what's happening here is you have some gradients, which are linked to these corner pieces. So each gradient here has different groups. Hold on, there we go, different groups, and these groups link to each corner, so then you can move these corners around to manipulate how the object looks. And these are all on inverted shaders, so anything they cross over they will invert the color of. And this bottom bit here that spins around, this top bit here that spins around, and these bits here they're static, so the objects will just sort of stretch from down here over into these corner bits. Okay, and then on top of that, to make the colors work, the eye is actually only black and white, and the colors come from that gradient trigger that I talked about way back at the start of the video, and that's how it gets its different colors, by switching between black and white and then having the colors overlay on top. Alright, I'm just going to quickly show the final product of this part of the level, because after that it's only some block design and some border control, which I will go over how I did just after I show the full thing. Alright, we're back in the editor, and I'm just going to show you the block design, what goes into it, how I made it. So this is the default color of the block design right here. I might just move them over so it stays like that. Oh, and we've missed that part. So, the block design is just the 3D objects around this. These ones actually are colored by the gradient as well, because they're far enough back to be doing that. And then inside of this object we have a few spinning things which just go behind the square, and then that's just a pulsing square on top of that. Over here we have these circles which are just hue shifted, so they go from purple, pink to orange, and that just means when I pulse the colors I don't have to pulse as many colors, and it'll just automatically sort of show those colors for me. See how they all go black at the same time? And then behind here we have one of those animated objects there, and then there's just a bit of glow on top of that, a basic purple square behind that. All these lines are just a basic line with glow over the top, and then these little lights, in the actual level you can't see them until you're near them. They sort of like light up when you go past them, and that's just controlled by a simple area fade trigger here, and that area fade trigger is also used for these arrows and the jump indicators, which are in the cube sections here. Other than that, we have these black circles that I put around all of the orbs to make them stand out against the background, because otherwise it's very hard to see where they are. And then we have this sort of big circle around some of the portals. So we have a smaller white circle and then a black one that's just offset to make it look a little bit 3D. And then we have this big one. This is actually the same as the background where it's only black and white, but because of the way the gradient sort of colors it, it changes. And then this glow, this only fades in on the same thing as this, so when you're near it, it'll brighten up, and then as you move away, it sort of disappears. And then we also have these spike designs, which are pretty simple. They're just a few triangles and then some lines coming off to sort of make them look a little bit like plants. It's not that noticeable in the level, but then there is also a spawn loop up here, which just pulses them from black to white a bit slowly, because I didn't want it to be like blinding. Okay, and the last thing we have for this part is this UI that goes around the screen. You can see that there's a guide in the middle, and that's what locks it to the center of the screen. The UI trigger will just take that, automatically put that in the center, and then everything else will sort of just follow it. And then down the bottom we have these move triggers just to make the top and bottom close in on you at the start, and then the sides pulse in a little bit whenever you hit a certain beat in the song. Right, so these are just the pulses for like the block deco and whatnot. Then there's also the pulses for the background, which actually seafoam green, even though they look like purple. That's just because the whole level is more or less inverted because of this background piece. So there's parts here where these like circles at the bottom get moved out really far, so when they rotate, they sort of like rotate way up and around the whole screen. So that's how I get that sort of like flickering effect with the lines in the background. And then other than that, I'm sure it's pretty obvious, but all these are just like lines and labels for all the triggers, just so I know what's going on, because I don't want it to end up like my last level, Tokyo Takedown, which I'm gonna show the part that I'm talking about. Okay, so Tokyo Takedown. This is what I don't want to happen. You can see here how many move triggers there are. These are literally just because every single one of these pieces move. And I did not organize these at all. I think, yeah, there's one. Like, there's just some that are behind the other ones and they're laid on top of each other. It's so terrible. And I just don't want my new level to end up looking like that, because I'll just lose motivation, won't know what's going on. The final effect I wanted to quickly go over was the spinning cube right on the orb at the transition. That is made with all this stuff up here. It's quite complicated, but basically what it is this is the center. These circles will spin around that, and then when they spin, the cube down here, these circles, which are on each of the corners up here, will follow the movement, so it makes it look 3D. And then these collision blocks here, they just respawn the gradients on top of each other, so they're 3D. And then after all that, down here, there's just a rotate trigger, which rotates all the circles out a bit further, and then a scale trigger that's centered around the orb, so they all scale away from it and sort of stretch out to the corners of the screen, and that's how you get that effect. If you want more information on how to create effects like that, I'll link the audio visual video in the description, and also a tried video that both go over the effect as well. Alright, just as a little final to the video, I'm just gonna show off everything that I've created so far in this level, and then I'll talk about what's happening with this channel moving forward. Just from the little bit that I've done so far, I'm already so happy with how this level's turning out. It's definitely my best work to date. Going forward, I'm so excited to like get my ideas out on what I want to make in this level. But let's talk about the channel. I'm just going to chuck some gameplay from some of my previous levels and test levels in the background while I talk over this last part. So I made this channel because with stuff like this, it obviously takes a lot of time, and pretty easily I lose motivation to make things like this. So the plan is to make a video weekly on this level. Basically just want to be able to update you guys on how the level is going, but also I want to help other creators who maybe want to build something but don't exactly know how to build it. I'm not the best builder by any means, but hopefully in the future I'll also be able to make some guides so that way I can help you guys out if I can. So if you did actually enjoy the video, please go ahead and like it, because I want to be able to know that my work's actually meaning something, because this did take quite a while to make. So yeah, I just want to make this YouTube channel a bit of a platform to sort of get my own stuff out there, but also maybe promote like your guys' stuff, like the viewers, for people who don't want to make like YouTube videos or promotions for their own levels and whatnot, to hopefully get them out there. And like I said, if you did enjoy the video, please like it, really helps out. Thank you guys for watching.